So we're talking about making and keeping friendships today with ADHD. Some of the stuff that we're going to cover is, some of the things with ADHD that might show up that might be different, or maybe some barriers that might affect us, just to be aware of, and then defining what a friend is and where to meet people. So what are the skills just to make a friend in general? I'm also going to talk about like how to keep the momentum going and things like that, and just when is it time to end a friendship, because sometimes we might be people pleasers, or we might not end it soon enough, right? So there's a couple pieces to it. What I want to start out with is, do you have a question or a challenge or an obstacle as a person with ADHD making or keeping friends? And I want to start out with your question or your point in the agenda. What is with friendship and ADHD? What is one thing that you might have as a challenge, or you might definitely want to learn more about? And I'll tell you mine. I've had like just, that thing of like missing social cues sometimes, or being too much. And so sometimes I will not ask somebody to hang out because in my mind I'm thinking maybe they don't want to, or maybe this is too much or something like that, and then I don't initiate, and then I didn't have friends. So that was something I had to really work through, because I just thought, well, I don't know, maybe I should give it more space, maybe it's too soon to ask them to hang out, things like that. So it's interesting. Okay, let's see. So yeah, Dan says there's something in To Let Them by Mel Robbins, which we're going to review that in our group coaching, actually, at the end of the month for ADHD agents. So that book. So something in the Let Them book by Mel Robbins, who also has ADHD, about creating and maintaining ADHD friendships, has different physics, and that might be harder for us. Shailene says, I make friends easily, the quality of them lacks. Okay. Moral, one thing is oversharing. That's a great one. Victoria, I have a hard time staying in touch with people that I don't physically see on a regular basis. Shailene says, me too. Tracy, it's an introvert that makes it harder for me, or tougher for me. Michelle says, I spill my whole life in a millisecond and get sad when it falls apart. Oh. Ruth, I have a hard time explaining why I'm late all the time. Always ruminate on how I came across to people. Did I talk too much, overshare, not listen well? Okay, this is everything. Everybody who's written in here. Josh says, too many friends. I feel like I can't have quality and quantity. Everything you guys have written, this is so great, because do you see how we're not alone with this? And everybody struggles with friends, like even not neurodivergent people. And we can have an extra layer. And there's really cool things about us too, as friends and with other neurodivergent friends, that it can actually be easier for us. So we're going to talk about that as well. Jennifer James has advice: if someone calls you crazy, it's okay to not to explain yourself. She has really super cool friends now that are very religious and she's atheist, or super cool friends that are maybe on the other side politically, and they're still good friends and they can talk about that stuff and just not talk about some topics. I think I read that right. So yeah, Tanya says, I don't have a problem with making friends. Most of my friends are neurodivergent. And Victoria, have a hard time staying in touch with people that I don't physically see. And then Shailene, if I get called crazy, I say, yeah, a little bit, thank you. Okay, so this is great. So I want to start out with this. This is exactly what I wanted, because I want to make sure to hit this stuff. So the first thing is, what we'll talk about is the oversharing. So this is a great thing to start with. Like, what are some of the things that's normal for us to maybe come up in friendships, especially, right? Because you're going to have friends that are neurodivergent, and there's going to be things that might be easier in that. And then you're going to have friends that aren't neurodivergent, and there's a gift in both, right? Because, and same thing with a partnership, right? If you're married to somebody who does and have neurodivergence, there's really cool things about that. And if you're with somebody who does, there's neat things. And so there's a lot of gifts in both. And so some of the things, just to right off the bat, of with friendship with ADHD, is the object impermanence or the emotional impermanence. So this is something mentioned in the comments. So we can have that, right? Kind of out of sight, out of mind. Remember, the way that we can see time is now or not now, right? And that's sometimes why we can experience that time blindness, right? We might not gauge time in the same way, or how long it's been. And the gift in that is we can be super present. We can be completely in the moment. We get in the zone. That's when we block everything out, and the only thing that exists is right now. And so if the only thing that exists is right now, friends that we have, or family members that we dearly care about, sometimes they're just not in that line of vision. And it doesn't mean we don't care. It just means we're so focused and so present on this one singular thing that we don't see it. And so someone who doesn't understand that might take offense to that. They might be hurt by that. Whereas if you have another friend who's neurodivergent that works the same way, you might have some friends where you just don't talk to each other for 2 or 3 months, and then they text you and it's like nothing happened. Does anybody have friends like that where you can just, you don't take it personal? There's not drama, you just know. And so part of this also is gauging of the friend that you have. And if you know that you have that, it's letting them know, hey, sometimes I get so focused in this, and it's kind of setting that expectation. So if it's somebody that gets hurt by that, one, you're going to set that expectation. That's how you work. And so they don't take it personally. Or two, if you really value that friendship, maybe you put a reminder on your calendar to text them. Right? Like maybe you know that they need to hear from you once a week or they're going to have their feelings hurt. So some of this is we're going to put some accommodations in place because we value the relationship. Or you might be somebody that you just know you're not going to put a calendar reminder. And so you might rule that out in a friend right off the bat. And what I'll say too with friends, right? It's a numbers game. And so finding a good friend, you're going to talk to a lot of people, and it's kind of like lead generation, right? Like you're lead generating for leads and you're looking for a great lead. And if you stop once you get the person that's an hour away, that's below your average price point, that's kind of a butt, and maybe you won't do the advice, and you don't keep lead generating where you would have got like this incredible lead. Like if you're settling and having people in your life that aren't great, I mean, you're not going to have as good of friends, right? So you might think about what are the things that are important for you in a friendship, and have those standards just like you would lead generating for a lead, and then you'll know when you find it, right? So if we find a lead that's like, oh, they'll sign an exclusive agreement with me, and they will get pre-qualified, or they will sign a listing agreement, and they are like respectful and kind. And so it's same thing as lead generation. You might define what a friend means to you, or what would be helpful, or what you want in a friend, and then you'll know when you find it. So that object impermanence or emotional impermanence is something that can affect us. Also the time blindness, right? It might have been a month and we didn't know, and it was actually like, we thought it was a week, and we're like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to reach out to them, I didn't. And so again, if you're making commitments to people and you're noticing it's hurting their feelings, that's something we want to own without fawning and feeling shame and feeling horrible. It's like, okay, hey, oh my gosh, yep, I said I was going to do that, I didn't. Here's what I'm going to do to fix that. Um, the other thing that can really get us, and you have this, man, this got me as well. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria, right? This fear of rejection on steroids. Scans show that it can create emotional pain in our brains, and so we might predict rejection even before like it's happened, or we might even perceive stuff that's neutral as rejection. And so there might be that there's a really good friend that we could have, but we might not register that they like us unless they're over the top. So if you find yourself getting in relationships with people who love bomb you, which is like a manipulation tactic, this is different, and you consistently do that, it might be because you don't register that people like you until it's like extreme, right? So sometimes somebody might like us, but because it's not extreme, we think they don't like us, so we don't initiate or do a follow-up, hangout or initiate, because we don't think they like us, but they do. So we lose that secure friend because we assume they don't like us because it's not over the top, or we've already assumed we're not good enough or something like that. And we also might read into too much of the small signals. We might be hyper vigilant. How is their facial expressions? Am I saying things right? Am I catching things? So we're really in our head. And when we're in our head and we're thinking about ourselves, what are we not thinking about? Like the connection, right? Listening, being present. And so you might think they're rejecting you, and you're in your head overthinking things, and they might say, oh man, I really like this guy, but he's not super present, and he's not asking me a lot of questions about myself. I don't know. And it could have been this great friendship, right? So that rejection sensitivity dysphoria sometimes can get in the way, and we might withdraw because we don't want to get hurt before we're rejected when they weren't going to reject us in the first place. um, or we might be more quiet, or we might be less open or less confident and not really show ourselves. Also, so social, does anybody get burned out after social interaction? You just get tired or burned out. So that's something, we can get burned out from social interaction, especially if you're masking. So if you have friendships where you have to mask that can be tiring. And so I would suggest to really focus on friendships where you don't have to mask your traits and think about, how you can show up if you can just be yourself. Do they give you a hard time? Do they understand your neurodivergence? Are they patient? If you're late 10 minutes every time, like I'll give you a great example of a really dear friend of mine. And she said this in a non-shaming way. A lot of times in the past, I was late by at least 10 or 15 minutes. So she told me in a way to communicate, not to shame, that she plans on being there 10 minutes later, just to offset it. So then she's not resentful at all. And then I don't feel bad about being, 10 minutes late. And so for a long time that worked. Now I've got systems in place, but it was like a really like open, sweet gesture and not shaming. So that's a good friend. So then I show up as close again and I try to beat her. And if I'm early, I'm like, oh my gosh, and then she shows up and does one more thing before she goes. And so she just puts 10 minutes on when we were supposed to meet. So yeah, and so just watching the masking, you're probably going to unmask a lot more with people who are neurodivergent, just in general, because they get it. So that can be one thing. Now, oversharing. So someone mentioned that in the comments as well. We can overshare. And with neurodivergence, we are very real and authentic. Anyone hates small talk? Like small talk where it's like, oh, oh my gosh, right? No, thank you. So we don't like small talk, and we go, a lot of times we go straight to the depth of something, which is this really beautiful thing, and you can connect very quickly. And sometimes there's this nonverbal um stuff that we can pick up on because we're more sensitive to stimuli, so we can pick up on stuff non-verbal. Whereas someone who's not neurodivergent, they typically do more small talk at first. So if you overshare to them, that might feel like too much, whereas to us it might feel that they're more surface level or they're not really opening up or vulnerable. And so understanding the other person, and we can go all or nothing thinking. So we can hang out with somebody once and just say, I don't know, or just say, oh, that went horrible, and then just write it off. Whereas the first time you might be nervous and you might need more time to get to know them before you can make that assessment. So just that all or nothing thinking, that black and white thinking, that can happen. And so this person might actually be vulnerable and able to open up, but for them, they need a little bit more time to be able to share that and get more deep because they need small talk first. It's a way to, it's that first step that we usually skip because, like, frankly, it's kind of boring. But good for you, neurotypicals, you know. So that the other thing is special interests. We can hyper focus on our special interests. And so what I'll say, this could be a great thing or not a great thing, is if we spend a lot of time focusing on our special interests and talking about consistently, and we're not picking up on cues, we're talking about that one thing too much, and then we don't pick up that it's time to shift to a different topic. So again, this is more with a neurotypical person that might happen. So that's another thing, is that special interest. So there's and then also, if we find someone with neurodivergence and we talk about our special interests, it might be this incredible bond. But there are benefits to friends who are neurotypical, where they're a little bit slower and a little bit more methodical, and that can be really cool for our nervous system to kind of regulate. And we can also bring excitement into their life, so that can be a fun thing. And they see us as very authentic and very real, and that can be refreshing. So there's gifts in both, and so really it's having a clear picture of what you're looking for in a friend, and just giving yourself grace if you don't fit something. So when we look at friendship, we might have, like, where do we meet people, right? So one of the things, especially with neurodivergence, if you have a special interest, and Marie just typed that in there, if you're looking to make a friend, figure out your special interest, right? Like we talked about in cup, if it's interesting, new, challenging, urgent, or passion, it's going to create dopamine. You're going to have energy for it. You're not going to have executive function issues. So if you're looking for a friend, make it easy on yourself and go do meetups, things you're already interested in. Figure out your special interest. If you're nerdy and you like playing cards or video games or whatever, that is a very quick way, if you'd like friends, to go to those things. Or you could even join online groups that are in alignment with your special interest, because that is, again, it's going to be your interest and it's going to be passion. You're going to have something to talk about. it is one of the easiest ways to make friends. If that's something that's important to you, one of the easiest ways to do that, and you're going to have a group. And then also, if it's structured. So if it's a meetup group, it's at the same time, you're not going to have to take the executive function to say, okay, let's go for coffee at this place because we can have decision fatigue, right? Or we might think it's not good enough, or is it too early? So again, a meetup or some kind of activity that you can go to is a really good thing for us, and it takes care of a lot of the executive function. The other thing, in sports teams, right? Anything you're interested in, a running club, a church, a spiritual group, a dance class, just walking around the neighborhood, that's a cool way to talk to people. Volunteering, uh, a lot of times we have that deep empathy, that philanthropy in us. And so we're going to meet like-minded people that have empathy, who are out volunteering. We could go to co-working spaces, public work sessions, things like that. That can be really helpful. So again, when we're talking about friendship, for a friendship to really build and be deep, you're gonna need time. It's not, if it happens instantly, the first meeting, that doesn't mean it's going to be a long-term friendship. You could just dump all the dopamine out the first time. So we're looking for stuff that's consistent over time, and you have more and more exposure, and that's really how you build those bonds. So think of this like a friendship. Somebody has to initiate the hangout, and most adults are lonely and like grateful that someone shows interest. So if you ask someone to hang out, unless there was no connection and no interest at all, they're probably not going to say no at least once, you know? So just know that they might be waiting for you to take the initiative. Most people are lonely, even non-ADHD people. And so if you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I should ask them to hang out, they might say no. That might be what they're thinking. And then nobody asked, and you never have that friend. So yeah, so that's important. Another thing with friends is friendships need rhythm, right? Not necessarily intensity. This isn't like a romantic thing. It's like consistency and rhythm. And so one key thing, because I know for some people it's helpful to have this, is like having just one hangout per month is pretty sustainable for a lot of neurodivergent people. So it's not every week. You're just hanging out with them once a month. And maybe keep that rhythm or have that in your calendar to initiate. Maybe you have a core people that are really in alignment with your values, or fit what you want, and just be intentional of having a meetup once a month. And for adult friendships, as that grows, that can be a really great thing. The other thing, is if you miss something. I've seen this in the comments, like if you're late, right? And you don't have to do once a month, right? That's just, if you want a barometer of like, if you want a really good friend, that's an option. It doesn't have to be once a month. It could be every 3 months, but just something to look at. So if you do mess up, let's say you are late, let's say you forget to show up, let's say you forget to text them, then what do you do, right? So one of them is just, again, I dropped the ball, or and who knows if it's even an issue to them. So you might say, hey, I noticed I was 10 minutes late. I'm sorry if that affected you, and I'm going to really try next time to not be late. Or you might set expectations. Hey, I know before we even start hanging out, I know sometimes time is hard for me to gauge. If me being not on time bothers you, I want to give you full permission to tell me. Will you tell me if there's anything that bothers you? Because some people just go on their phones. It's not a big deal. So again, feel free to, if you know there's like something glaring that you might struggle with as a friend, tell people that it's okay to give you feedback, because that's a really healthy thing. Hey, before you get this, I know I have this thing where I get focused on work and I just forget to text all my friends. Or I know they have this is another one. They text and you don't text back, and they might feel like, oh my gosh, he doesn't care. Or you might think, man, it's been too long to text him back, I'm embarrassed. So tell them, hey, just so you know, if you text me and I don't text you back, it doesn't mean I don't care. Sometimes I get distracted and I thought I responded in my head. So please feel free to double text. Like if you ever think I don't care, trust me, I do. Just know that you can always double text. If you don't get an answer, feel free to poke me, and giving that permission, because they're worried about being rejected, right? So if you don't answer their text, they might be worried. Another thing is ending a friendship. So sometimes not all friendships are healthy. Sometimes you grow out of it. Sometimes they get involved in something that's not great. So if these are some reasons, like If they are takers, we can be givers, right? We can be givers and we can miss cues and we can think the best of people. So if you have people in your life who are draining you, who are taking, who are guilt tripping, who you feel shame around, pay attention to your nervous system. Like, where's your nervous system at before, during, and after? If you feel drained, if you feel worse about yourself, it doesn't mean you need to be better and they're just showing you a mirror and you got to step it up. If you like people who are healthy, you feel better about yourself during and after you hang out with them. Things feel easier, they feel better. You don't think that there's some gap and you need to step it up and you feel bad about yourself. Um, that's what I learned. This is just something too, because I've been around some very successful people, right? Um, and there are some very successful people, millionaires, billionaires I've been around that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to step it up. Like, I'm so far behind. And then there are other millionaire, billionaires that I leave and I think, man, I'm so proud of myself. I feel so good about myself. And I'm really excited to keep going. And what I realize is that people who are good people want you to feel good about yourselves. They don't want you there to be some gap in that you're shamed and you're not good enough. They want you to feel, hey, you're on the right track and you want to feel motivated after you hang out with them. So sometimes if we don't feel good, right, we can be drawn to people that affirm that in us, where we're trying to prove ourselves, trying to prove that we're good enough. There might be entitlement. We might walk on eggshells. So we're more prone to keep those people in our life, and those are not great people, you know? Um, yeah, feel free to end them if you need to, or let them, kind of fizzle out. With friendships, again, just remember most people, especially adults, feel lonely, and they would like to have more friends. So it's not just you. And this is another thing. So we can have all or nothing thing. Have you heard of the saying, "You're the average of the five people you keep around you"? You heard of that? Okay. I want to elaborate on that. And if you're as all or nothing as I have been in the past and other people, sometimes it's like, okay, well, I need to have five successful people around me, right? If I want to build wealth, I have to have all my five people have to have good wealth, or they have to be fitness. So this is a multimillionaire that talked to me about this is if you want to build wealth and one of those friends has no money and doesn't care about wealth, but they are great with fitness, that's a great addition to your friend circle. You don't have to have all of them to have it's do they have a quality that you admire? Are they just a really good friend? Maybe they're not super successful in business, but they're just a really, really good person. You're still going to learn from them at a high level. And you want that. You don't want people that are all five exactly the same. So I've heard that coaching clients of like, well, this person's not doing or not successful and I need to have five successful people around me, and we can get really all or nothing or rigid around that. And so what I would say is, do they have something quality that you'd like to learn from? Whether that's like they volunteer a lot and they have an incredible heart, or they're really healthy, or they're just a really good parent. Those are all good additions to that as well. So just as a precursor. And yes, like the people you're friends with are going to influence your conversations. They're going to influence the way you see yourself. So the way that they talk about you is going to influence how you see yourself. If they're super negative, if they're the sky is falling down, you're going to take that on. If they're judgmental, if they make you feel insecure, it's going to impact you. So just be aware of that, and you want people who see you for who you are that you can unmask around. When you unmask and you start to just be yourself, you are going to lose some people, most likely. Most likely, people are going to leave. When you start setting boundaries, when you start calling stuff out, when you're not being treated well, you might have multiple people leave all at once, and it's easy to think, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? So when you're being really intentional about your friends and thinking who's healthy and who's not, it's normal to have depending on if you haven't done that already, if you've gone through some healing, or you're now setting boundaries, or you're just unmasking, or you're just being yourself, or now you're not going to walk on eggshells. If you have a couple people that all of a sudden it's clash, it doesn't work, that doesn't mean something's wrong with you or you're bad. It might mean you're getting healthier. Oh, another one. This is another just point. So I see some comments about being late. So one of the things, I want to give you two things. So let's say I'm 10 minutes late, and I want you to tell me which of these are going to make you feel better and closer to me. So first, when I'm 10 minutes late, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I'm late. I was rushing and then I forgot this and I got in the car and it was just really stressful and I feel really bad. I'm so sorry. Okay. So there's number one. Okay. Number two, thank you so much for waiting 10 minutes. I know I was 10 minutes late. I appreciate you and thanks for being so gracious. Which one are you gonna feel more connected to if you're my friend? Number two, right? So a lot of times when we apologize, what ends up happening is we make it more about ourselves. And that doesn't mean you're selfish. We just feel bad when really, if there's a way to thank the person, then it feels like you're giving something, you know? If you forgot to call somebody back, your friend, and you call them and say, oh my gosh, or you say, thank you. I know that sometimes I forget, and I just want to let you know how much I appreciate that you don't take that personally. And it means a lot to me that I don't feel shame when that happens with you. Let me know if it bothers you, no, but I just want you to know that. So those are things that can strengthen a bond. Like all of a sudden now your friend's like, don't worry about it, and they've got your back. Versus like this, because shame spiral kind of isolates us, right? When we feel bad and we're just so focused on ourselves, it's harder to connect, you know. And then, oh, I forgot about this. People with ADHD have great humor. I forgot about that. So we can make really good friends. I think there's a lot of people in here that can make friends fast too, because we have great humor. We open up right away. We can be vulnerable. A lot of people are closed off. So for some people with ADHD, we can make friends faster, especially when we unmask and have confidence. So if you have shame and you're kind of looking down, you feel like stuff's wrong with you, and man, if somebody saw all this stuff, I got to compensate all that stuff. You're not going to make friends faster. It doesn't mean that you're not good at it. It means you're so in your head and you're so worried about being judged that it may be that you're not making friends because of that. Not that anything has to change about you or that you wouldn't be a good friend. It's just that you might be all in your head and be worried. So that's another thing too, is we can be really funny, super loving, very loyal, such loyal friends. We have interesting ideas. We might have just something new or some activity. We can be up for doing different stuff. We might know a lot of people, especially if you have the ADHD where you are great. Some people are great at talking and networking, get energy from people. I mean, there's a lot of really big gifts. What I want you to think about too is assume that the other person is self-conscious as well. So assume, how good does it feel? Like, how good would this feel if you felt like kind of subconscious? I said, hey, Kelly, hey, Mindy, hey, Ginny, hey, Josh. Like, if I came up to you and I said, hey, and we had a quick interaction over there, and like you were so like funny, or you were so kind, and I'm looking for more friends that are really kind or really funny. Would you want to grab coffee this week sometime and just see if it's a match? Or you might have a special interest or something they're really good at or strong at. Like, hey, we've taken yoga class together a couple times, and you are so good at that, and I'm so impressed. I'd love to like ask more questions and learn more about that. So, seeing something that they're good at, a special interest, pointing out something positive, that kind of stuff can be really helpful. Because most people deep down, and as a coach, right, over 10,000 calls, most people have this core thing where they don't quite feel good enough. So assume that, because that surprised me as a coach. You see everybody on social media. I thought, oh my gosh, even the people way up top, all of us have that, like, ooh, am I good enough? Sometimes. Not everybody, but I don't know. I don't want to be absolute, but I would say most of us can have that at times. And so you being warm and initiating is actually like a really wonderful thing. So yeah, so and we have great empathy. I mean, we're always learning and growing. There's just so many good things about being friends with us. And then if you have autism as well, you have what's called ADHD, which is a mix of both. If you find other ADHD friends, sometimes it's like, boom, speak the same language, you immediately know. It's kind of like gaydar. Like I've heard about gaydar, right? It's like ADHDer or ADHDer. And so gravitating towards some of those neurodivergence could be really cool. So okay, let's see. So yeah, remember, get people that support you. We've had 20,000 negative messages by the age of 8 on average as an ADHD kid. And so get friends that support you. You deserve that at this point. My goodness, right? Please get people that support you. Yeah, don't get people that reaffirm that junk that's out there. So that is the call today. You are all wonderful friends that anybody would be lucky to have. And I trust this was helpful. And thank you for being my friend. And we'll talk to you next week. So Have a good one, everybody.